traditionally when stories about street projects are covered, it's like, who is the absolute most angry about this? Let's talk to them. And who is the absolute most enthusiastic about this? And let's talk to them. Or it's framed as city wants to do this and the community is just up in arms, and it's like the owner of the cat cafe is representing the community. And it's like what you got to do is go out and find the people who are very loosely engaged to the topic, who are greatly affected but like loosely engaged. Go out and make new friends. I am always skeptical of like softening the attitudes of your enemies, because they're going to be your enemies at the end too. But I'm not a good or friendly person, so.
Well, and I think it was during one of the budget hearings. There was someone who came in and conflated our organization with parking and gun crime, all in like one
Wait,
or two
really?
sentences.
The most
I
recent budget hearing that was said? I didn't
it
listen to it
was
all. I was going to ask you about the weird conspiracies about our streets. Like, you were destroying this city. There's like a small hardcore group of people that hate you with a passion. You should probably take it as a badge of honor that you're doing good in the world. But it's like this. I don't know if Carol Becker is ringleading like a group, like a breakaway sect of the DFL senior caucus to like do a vendetta against you. But like, there's a small group of people for whom our streets is like the top issue of things that are ruining the city. And I don't understand. I don't understand it. Like, there's other things going
yeah,
on in the city you could be mad about, not our streets.
exactly, and that's I think how we're taking it sort of collectively. These things are going to happen, and just like you say, they're kind of a result of the amount of engagement that we do around things, but also the popularity of the things that we do. And you know, when we go out to do things, like things can become popular and beloved if you do them meaningfully and for the right reasons. And that's what I think sort of creates sometimes a threat, or the idea of a threat, is that permanence. When you go out there and plant seeds and make commitments to communities to see things through, that's okay. And that's what we tell communities. It's like we're prepared to take that heat and that negative feedback, because underneath of that, just like you're saying, what we're experiencing when we're working with communities is a lot of joy and is a lot of optimism, but it is still rooted in realism. It's not that these things are going to happen. It's just like what I was saying, is that this cynicism or skepticism, um, or animosity that people sometimes rightly feel towards decision makers or the government that's not serving them, we're helping funnel it into something that could be good in the end. And we're just trying to give it some purpose. And that's the majority of people that we engage with. They're excited about these ideas, and we make it easy for them to get involved with them. And why not then go celebrate them and celebrate these communities? Say, okay, we're going through all this process of ideating and visioning and creating these community alternatives. Um, let's demonstrate them in a way that's really fun and cathartic. Um, spend a day outside, kind of looking at these large renderings and enjoying the fruits of all of that labor. Um, but I think in general, people can see kind of past that and that noise. But um, yeah, absolutely. You see the what's happened in some of these hearings and what people come out to say. And to be honest with you, I just don't give it much of a second thought, other than to understand that it's part of what's going to happen. And we just get back to work and try to do the right thing and continue to elevate our work. Now, like I said, we're not going to stop there and say all business owners this way, that way. We're going to do the work to make sure that we're creating consciousness and awareness about what actually can happen. And we feel confident that, especially just like you're saying, there are probably business owners that are like, I know this isn't true. I know this is not how it works, but I don't have something to latch onto. And that's where we want to be. We want to create spaces for other business owners to be like, okay, like there's something for us to jump onto and create our own collectives apart from this fear mongering, where we can advocate for better neighborhoods and better communities in a way that makes sense to us, and we don't have to be overshadowed by the loudest voices, um, or the loudest critics.
I love it. I loved Carol Becker's, like, nothing Carol Becker said was true at that public hearing about what was going on with the Open Streets funding. Like, she had her numbers wrong, she had a whole bunch of facts wrong. But, like, I'm just imagining like a regular person or even a council member listening to that. I think that's not very persuasive at all. And like, if you're getting into the weeds on your R Streets conspiracy theory, you know what you're not doing is arguing that streets should be reconstructed in one way or the other. You're just like so focused on our streets that you're not even advocating for whatever your own position is. So good job, our streets Minneapolis. You're distracting the other side from having any kind of argument at all. They're just wasting their time with conspiracy theories. I love it.
Yeah, I, something that comes to mind too, and going back to the Imagine Event series, positive ideation and positive outcomes are always more powerful than trying to do harmful things to other people.
Yeah.
And that's, it's always at the core of what we think about. It's like if we have something good that compels people and gets them excited, it's always going to outweigh this idea of like um, just trying to be harmful, because like there's no goal there, and that's what makes it sort of, just like I say, it makes it sort of um, very interesting to latch onto and watch. But what makes it sort of unhinged is like you're not trying to go after anything other than to hurt people. And ultimately, it's like we want to be somewhere else. We want to say, look at something really positive that can happen, and in our mind, and you see it time after time. If you have something exciting and positive, meaningful that people can connect with, and they can see themselves benefiting from that, it's always going to outweigh that kind of behavior.
Yeah, we saw that in the most recent election, like in Ward 12 and Ward 7 especially. Like the candidates with positive agendas were ultimately victorious, and the candidates who were like, "No, I don't think we should do that. I don't have any agenda. I'm just we need to get back to the basics." Those kind of candidates who are like, those candidates didn't do so well. So when I think about, like, I go to a lot of public engagement meetings on street projects. So when I think about what happens at those meetings, there are like poster boards up everywhere, and there's a table with a big map, and they're like, put a pin on the map where there's a problem. And I think about this stuff a lot. I'm constantly out in the neighborhood walking on the streets that are being talked about at these meetings. But I have a hard time like looking at a map and like articulating on a post-it note like what I think is terrible and problematic. I just can't do it. I can't go back into my memory bank and like come up with specific criticisms other than like this street is too damn wide, traffic is too fast. I have big broad criticisms, but the trying to get me to nail it down to what intersection is a problem, I'm always like, no, the whole street is messed up, man. How am I going to find one intersection to put down a post-it note and tell you what the problem is? It's not one intersection. It's not that the sidewalk is broken up here. The whole street is the problem. Like, is that part of what this Imagine series is about? Like getting people out onto the physical street and like demonstrating to them what the big problem is, or making it easier for them to articulate what the big problem is and what they would like to see there. Like if I go to one of these Imagine events, what am I going to be asked to do aside from listen to music and eat food and have a good time? Like what is the practical method here?
Okay, so you touched on a lot of good things. You kind of made our case for us really well, which is what I was talking about earlier. Evangelism doesn't work because people are not connecting the solutions with human lived experiences. And as you've seen in Open Street, for example, we have these mobile history museums. People are engaging with these histories of these neighborhoods that existed. And the reason why they connect with them is not because they're experts at intersections or curb cuts or lane width. It's because they understand what it feels like to live in a neighborhood that's awesome, and they understand what it's like to live in a neighborhood that sucks. you know, and um, the engagement that would precede an event helps kind of fill in those gaps. For example, we had one session. One of the cooler things that we've done is collaborate with the Million Artist Movement, where the end result was a quilt that was a compilation of people's ideas of the things they needed and wanted in their neighborhood. And the other thing is that it kind of goes beyond the street itself. It's really about reimagining the neighborhood, the actual block. Um, but what we do is connect those lived experiences, whether they're negative experiences or experiences they have in other places outside their neighborhood, to these solutions. So they have that aha moment like, okay, if I want to feel this way in my neighborhood, here are the kind of components that help me get there. And that leads to a little bit more permanence and retention, like you're talking about. But at the event itself, what we're going to celebrate is sort of the result of that work. Is you can come and engage with these rendered visions that are the result of this engagement with these impacted neighborhoods or anybody else who wants to come and participate. Um, so people can kind of see what communities can imagine if they're given the opportunity to engage on that level, to express their concerns, um, to make the connections between their concerns and their experiences and the solutions that can help alleviate those, ideate about what's possible in a co-creative, fun way, and then see their words and see their ideas come together into something that definitely can be used by a public works department, but it can also be enjoyed by any person who shows up and comes to talk to one of us, and we can be like, look at this. We've been working on this with the community for this much time over these many events, and let's talk a little bit about the neighborhood. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening, and let's talk about here why we created these things. When you remember when we met at the Kmart site and they had the two food trucks or whatever?
We had burritos. We ate burritos together in the Kmart parking lot before, sadly, that it burned down shortly thereafter. After we had burritos together.
Yeah, and it's not to sound conceptual. It's just that it's really important for people to connect with solutions on a human level and understand how they're going to benefit from them, and that just takes more time. Um, but how do I say? And I think the other part is like I completely understand what you're saying about the post-its. It's like co-creation can be interactive. Like we were having a discussion about um, how to perhaps like have a space for kids where we could have like a puppet show to like do a little demonstration of the history of the neighborhood or the impacts of transportation. It's like we don't work hard enough to make things accessible. And you could hire all the consultants in the world, whether you're MnDOT or City St. Paul or whatever. The best way to connect with communities is to have that interaction and let it evolve into things that um, can become interactive and fruitful in creative ways that still lead to the same results. But obviously, these these proposals might kind of end up near where you live. But imagine as a community member being able to help put together one of these things with your neighbors, with your friends, with your loved ones. Okay, and coming and doing all of this engagement, and then coming to an event where you feel 100% ownership over what's being celebrated at that event, and you're at an event that feels like the neighborhood that you want to see in the future, and you've created a partnership with an organization and other organizations that's going to help see that to fruition. And we feel like that's going to motivate people to get more involved, and that feeling of ownership, that the effort to make those connections between the solutions and their lived experiences are going to be something where like people will go home just as you're describing, not necessarily being able to remember everything, but feeling excited about what's happening and feeling motivated to participate in making it happen.
Jose, what are you looking forward to? This is my final question here. What are you looking forward to in 2024 as we get prepared to enter a new year? And please limit it to streets, transportation, or politics. No personal stuff. What are you looking forward to? What do we have to look forward to next year?
Well, first and foremost, launching this event series. I'm very
Oh,
excited about
you
this.
can't pick the thing that you came on to promote, Jose. We just talked
Just
about it for like 50 minutes and you're recommending
girls.
the thing we spent 50 minutes talking about?
Oh,
No.
as a recommendation. All right.
It's
So,
not a recommendation. I'm asking, it's not my typical question. I'm asking what we have to look forward to, and it can't be the thing we just talked about for 50 minutes.
okay. Well, I am looking forward to finding out who the new public works director is going to be.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, really nervous about it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Lisa Goodman. How about that? The return of Lisa Goodman.
yes,
Her best friend, who just left the job, makes Lisa Goodman the new public works director. Lisa Goodman and Margaret Anderson Kelleher together again to destroy our lives.
seems like a real
I don't know if that's
possibility.
going to happen. I hear
Yeah.
lots of bad things about how Lisa Goodman does not work well with staff. I know that we're supposed to tell stories about how warm and fuzzy she is, but Lisa Goodman as your boss doesn't sound great if you happen to like have bad news for her. So I don't want to go
Oh
off on a
yeah.
Lisa Goodman tangent, but
I don't know if this is the oppositional hot take. I'm not normally a natural contrarian, but my take is if you don't feel good about a person who's retiring, just wish them well and leave it at that. That's totally okay. You don't have to make things up about them. Just wish them well. Like treat them like human beings, but you don't have to lionize them or put like sprinkle rainbow sparkles over them or whatever. It's like just let it go. And I would be concerned if that's the direction that we went in with Lisa Goodman as public works director.
I don't
But
want to start that rumor. I don't know how likely that is to happen, but that's like the worst case scenario.
yeah, I think that's the other thing I would say I'm really looking forward to, which is um, we kind of getting to work on things at the state level and digging into sort of that first step in the transportation bill and making sure that implementation is actually benefiting the communities that have been most harmed by past transportation decisions. I think there's a lot of potential, and obviously we're going to put time and work into it, but there's a lot of potential to do a lot of good things around that. Um, and in politics, um, I don't engage with it too much at all. Um, so I think that the new city council in Minneapolis and in St. Paul um, could open new doors, but um, I'm hopeful that we are looking past um, really well crafted statements and social media content and actual legislation, difficult as it might be, to live up to all of these promises that happened during all of these campaigns. Because as far as I'm concerned, and for the work that we do, um, elected officials are public servants. We have plenty of great people like you who can produce great content and commentary on what's happening. These people should take on the responsibility of making these things come to life. So I am excited at the possibility, but obviously, in my job and our job is to make sure that accountability actually takes place. Ultimately, that's what we're looking to is what is actually happening and what are they actually deciding to do.
So on that note, I'm kind of excited that the city council added some staff in their legislative department. Like they're starting to crawl out of the hole that we dug for ourselves by switching to a strong mayor form of government. So I feel like the Minneapolis City Council is going to have some legislative capacity and some maybe momentum and motivation to do more legislating and not just like leave it to the mayor to decide what he's going to do. And for a public works director, you know what? I'm hoping for a public works director who like believes in the transportation action plan that like really honestly believes in it and not like pretends to believe in it. Like I remember at Margaret Henderson Kelleher's confirmation hearing, she was asked like, do you support the transportation action plan? And she said yes. And everyone at home was like, okay, a good one, Margaret. But just hire a professional who actually like believes in this stuff and believes it's a good thing and we should follow through on it and like it will improve people's lives. Just get somebody who believes in it. Because if you don't believe it, you're going to be bad at implementing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And there were some people at that hearing who advocated for her to get that position, and look at where we are now. And I think that's also, I mean, that speaks directly to where we're at, which is transportation action plan is sort of part of Lisa Bender's legacy, you could say. It's not funded, and we wanna get to a place where it's actually really implemented across the city. Um, and so, exactly, I think that's really well said. It's like it'd be great to have people who are willing to go fight for it in the city, in addition to obviously, the advocacy efforts that are coming in from the outside. And as far as the strong mayor, like I was saying earlier, um, even though we technically have a democratic process, when the behaviors of governance are autocratic and they're motivated by personal insecurities, by sort of installing a lot of fear and making everything sort of a binary dichotomy between creating fear and enforcing it, that's not progress. We have to get out of that cycle, and we have to find ways to encourage people to start believing in other things outside of just being afraid of them. That isn't progress. And so I would, just like you're saying, I think it would be great to see more movement towards things that people can get behind, so they start thinking positive and feeling positive about governance, and we start to see steps in the right direction.
Jose, thank you. Jose Antonio Zayas Caban from Our Streets, Minneapolis. We had a great conversation about the new Imagine event series for 2024. I'm looking forward to attending one on East Street in Whittier, hopefully. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and it's nice to be here again.
This has been the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.